Welcome to the premium edition of the Seventh Estate, a pure political station where we speak our minds. We shall explain rather than just state, break it down rather than just convey. In fact, on the Seventh Estate, your voices have just been amplified. You'll always call me Nashion Mwakazi. Well, yesterday we had the CS for Finance, that's Mr. and Honorable Ukuru Iyatani, that's his name. Indeed, he went to the National Assembly and delivered a 3.6 trillion budget, the highest so far since Kenya attained its independence in the year 1963. Many are the questions with regards to how the economic impact on Kenyans shall be. And to help me navigate on this is none other than the Secretary General of Kibabi University, the one and only Alex Kirong. Welcome, sir. You just saw the budget that was released yesterday. And indeed, Kenyans are asking the big question that indeed, how shall it be economically to the common mwananchi? Welcome so much.
Now, thank you, Mwakazi. I think the affairs budget really means a lot to the Kenyans. And when we're discussing 3.6 trillion, it's a great shame to the Treasury, because as much as they have the responsibility to roll out a budget, we have a lot of issues underlying, because they also ought to account for a number of things that the government has been doing without a clear audit. And that is why you're finding issues that are leading Kenyans into issues of paying the debts that the government has gone to borrow without any clear functions that are beneficial to the Kenyans. And you now find that we will have to pay 70 shillings out of 100. And as Kenyans, we remain with 30 shillings in our pockets. Therefore, that is exploitation of the highest order. And as a Kenyan who loves welfare for all, I would want to condemn that with the highest words possible, because we don't expect a treasury where we've trusted with the affairs of development to roll out budgets that are not accounted for, but they want Kenyans to be accountable in paying taxes. That is shameful. But now, as Kenyans, we also should, in future, consider that this budget is rolled out under political circumstances. You see, we cannot fail to mention those high taxes, those high debts, if we are not talking about political civilization. It's only when we attain a political clear thinking that we can minimize on the issues of budget complaining. Because we will complain today, then Ukuru Iyatani, who is the CS Treasury, he has very little influence on this, the way we see as Kenyans. It's dictated. We are not really implicating the factor of dictatorship to a certain individual or a certain body. But we've seen it. You see, it's out of his will. He has to do some things in accordance to the boss, and that's a bit, we really find it funny as Kenyans, because what Iyatani is saying probably is what he has been asked to say. What he is doing, the funds he is releasing, is just what he has been directed to. And in the current Kenya, you lose a job if you don't dance to the tune of your bosses, and it's that funny. So I think we Kenyans should go back to where the rain started beating us, and we'll stop complaining and lamenting. Because I believe in every other nation, there is someone who means well. So if we're discussing matters budget, it is where we are now. So we should think about the future leadership. That's the only thing that can save us as Kenyans. And on issues budget again, I want to say that You see, for a very long time, we've been witnessing development, the executive, the sitting government, you know, the CSS. We even witnessed the Deputy President, Dr. Ruto, rolling out a number of projects. But most of them are incomplete. We find the president launching a number of projects. Most of them are incomplete. But we find the budget really taking hits. So my view on that is, as a nation, let's focus on the projects that are truly beneficial to Kenyans, and then two projects that our budget, without borrowing, our budget can sustain to its to its completeness. And then we should also look at the budgets that are income generating, budgets that can generate taxes, income to the country. Because at this rate, we should not be surprised that we are going to borrow again. And to me, that is inhuman, it is wild, and it is something that we Kenyans have said enough is enough. And so far, in terms of budget, that's what I can say. But as any Kenyan would say, it's unfair.
Well, General, looking at the external borrowing with reference to the Jubilee government, this government has been in office for about now 7 years. And looking at it very keenly, this is the government that has overborrowed, according to economical experts. Do you think, from your very informed opinion, that this government, the Jubilee administration, has borrowed wisely with regards to the project that they have initiated?
Well, with the issues of borrowing by the Jubilee government directed towards projects, because we should really be in terms that when a government borrows money, it means that they have a project which the money will be channeled directly to work on that particular project. And therefore, we will realize, as I mentioned earlier, that we have projects that were started long time, right from 2013, but they are incomplete up to now. We've seen stadiums that were begun, and as per now, they remain as fortresses because nothing was done. They are now covered with grass, and that is shameful. And we would want to say that this borrowing has been sort of malice, because I never expected politicians who are seasoned, leaders who are seasoned, like the current executive, to get drunk with ideas that, you know, they couldn't sustain. I understand that the president and the deputy president had a clear manifesto when they were asking for our votes as Kenyans. But now, when we look at the borrowing, of course, we understand that this is the government that has borrowed for quite some time. We remember the Moi regime, which took 24 years. If we compare what we've borrowed now and what Moi borrowed, you know, we fail to, it doesn't add up. So, Mwakazi, I want you to understand that nothing has been done. Of course, we only know of a few notable, of course, the SGR, but it had a scandal behind the same. It even led to a political fallout between the Jubilee government and many of the pioneers of the party. Remember the saga of Jimmy Wanjigi and the president. And then, you know, all along the borrowing has had scandals. Remember the Kimwarer. All that money was borrowed. Remember the NYS scandal. That was a borrowed amount. Just to mention a few. And we want to say that if at all the government doesn't have measures to make sure that the money that is borrowed is channeled to the intended projects, then let's use our taxes. We Kenyans are responsible in paying taxes. So let's just operate within our budget. It will serve us justice, because each and every day the prices of basic commodities is hiking. You find the other day we had bread. You know, that's a basic commodity, Mwakazi. And you have to understand that every other Kenyan would be proud to have his share of breakfast. But if it is sugar, then tomorrow we are finding it's bread. Then, of course, if they realize that we Kenyans are responding positively to exploitation, then you should never imagine that even our very own manufactured salt will have to be taxed highly, and that will be purely unfair. And so my stand on the affairs of borrowing vis-a-vis development, let's just stick to our taxes. Let the treasury budget on what Kenyans have paid, and then we roll out projects that we can sustain. And then industrialization should also be a key factor. Look at a setup of Western Kenya. We have a number of industries that are not functional. If the government could even borrow and make sure that they revive, they bring to life such industries, they are towering. We have large tracts of land in, say, Mumias Sugar Company. They are unutilized, yet we are borrowing instead of investing in such important and crucial institution like manufacturing and industrialization. We are focusing on things that would still call for a number of amounts, yet they are not productive. So my advice is, let's put first things first. Let's focus on the most important things, because you realize even if we revived, say, Mumias, a case study in Western Kenya, we would have issues of employment. We will have taxes, being paid, of course, because you realize that every other table in the morning requires sugar, and the prices of sugar. Then Kenya is prone as a nation to benefit from such investments. So we should seek alternative ways of raising money for development other than borrowing. Yeah, I think that's what I can say about that. Yeah.
Well, navigating through matters pertinent economy, the standards were released, and in fact, figures speak louder than words. It is estimated that about 2 million Kenyans lost their jobs courtesy of the COVID-19 global pandemic. With regards to the Kenyan economic system, where 3.6 trillion is the estimated budget, what do we expect from that, owing to the fact that already about 2 million Kenyans have lost their jobs, and this is the Kenyan government going ahead to hike and even the budget? What do you expect from the common mwananchi?
Now, you realize that we go back to Jubilee government. You see, Jubilee government, one of its major agenda that was covered in the Big Four was creation of job opportunities. And you realize that as prices hike, a common mwananchi will suffer, first of all. And that will come as a result of, having to pay highly for the commodities. And then you realize that there will be a different political shape-up, because we are tired of such exploitation. Therefore, I would want to speak on behalf of a Kenyan who actually feel pissed off with this form of economic exploitation. And actually, Kenyans would therefore opt to do without some things. For example, a number of them were used to raising a budget. You know, they would also operate within their own budget. You know, just like the treasury have their own budget, as Kenyans we have our own budgets in the house. But if you realize it's unaffordable, you know, many Kenyans will be forced to as a Kenyan, I would feel demoralized and unaccommodated if my government, you know, is raising prices and perhaps they don't consider my level of income. You know, many Kenyans are Juakali people. Many Kenyans are hustlers. Many Kenyans you know, they live from hand to mouth. And that should prompt you to understand that at all times they have to sacrifice and do without some things. And that's where I'm bringing you to the factor of these necessities that Kenyans are used to. And now that the prices are high, you know, they will have to do without. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, some of the necessities we'll have to do without. Those are the very pertinent remarks of General Alex Kirong of Kibabi University. Dear viewer, we are live from Kibabi University and we are here to discuss matters pertinent the state of the nation. This is the 7th estate where your voices have just been amplified. Well, we are switching gears to matters pertinent to politics, and there is a wide rift between the office of the president and the judiciary. These matters began way before 2017 when actually the president of the Supreme Court by then, Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga, happened to have nullified the election of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the entire Jubilee administration, as null and void. And this led to President himself making remarks that we shall revisit. Ever since then, a wide rift has been witnessed between the office of the president and the judiciary as it is constitutionally stated. And then yesterday, we had the former Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga happening to give a one-on-one directive to the legislature, that is the National Assembly, that they should institute a motion to impeach the president because he has declined to go ahead and, you know, come up with the list as well as verify the 6 remaining judges of the Court of Appeal. And in fact, even the 13th Chief Justice, the retired Willie Mutunga, happened to have said that indeed the president is the major stumbling block between acquisition of justice. So all said and done, there is a wide rift between the judiciary and the office of the president. General Kirong are basing the fact that indeed what we saw, the former Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga happening to give a directive order to the National Assembly that you should institute a motion to impeach the president because he is contravening the very constitution that he happened to have declared that he shall safeguard, as well as the 13th Chief Justice Willie Mutunga offering the same narrative. What's your view with regards to this?
Thank you, Mwakazi. You see, yesterday we saw what the former CJ David Maraga said, and as Kenyans, he's just speaking on behalf of many Kenyans whose voice cannot be heard. And I want to state as a proud Kenyan, you know, as a Kenyan who's also concerned in matters pertaining constitution, we are keen, we are following, and we understand all these steps, we cannot rule out whether the president is right or wrong. But what raises our eyebrows as Kenyans is, you see, we have three supreme organs in our constitution, and that is the executive, of course, which is headed by the president, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. And then we have the judiciary, that is the president, there is the CJ. We have the legislature, the parliament, where we have the Senate and, of course, the National Assembly. For a very long time, right from 2013, Parliament was very active. It was actually where Kenyans were basing their cries. And it really had a record of winning big for Kenyans. But we come to 2017 and after 2017, we realized that there is a shift in the operations. We had serious impeachments that went on in the legislature, both in the National Assembly and in the Senate. And all these, we couldn't point fingers, but we knew where the pressure was being exerted from. And from then, the judiciary has really strained to remain independent, neutral, and justice-abiding. They have tried to remain in the course, and thanks to Maraga. So now that we can't rule out if the president is walking the right direction where the Kenyans want, I'd want to say that we should base our judgment on Maraga. Because what the former government and people who claimed to champion for change, who claimed that the constitution is not all-inclusive, the 2010 constitution, which we are now operating under. So you have to realize that the BBI came with a serious force in the beginning. Remember? The 2022 game has remained on course. And looking at myself as an unplayer in 2022 affair, of course, I'm not ruling out whether I'll go for this or the other one. As a politician, we can always rise to the occasion at a given time strategically. Yeah, so Mwakazi, I would even remind you of my dream to run for a senatorial seat in Trans Nzoia.
So you're running?
Well, we cannot rule out now, but you know, yeah. So that brings us to the 2022. Let's focus first on the presidential election, because that is purely where all of us are focused. So looking at the presidential race, I'll tell you it is tough, it is rough, and it is unimaginable. Because you realize that we, up to now, have one standing player. That is the Deputy President of Kenya. He has declared his interest right from the time yangu kumi, ndugu yangu kumi. Remember? It is something that has lived on, and we've witnessed the Deputy President champion for that. With his project record, we've seen him run from this place, the Tanga movements. So we heard him say that reggae has stopped and the Tanga movements have stopped. But every other Kenyan understands that the Deputy President, Dr. Ruto, will be running for presidency. And then we have the One Kenya Alliance, where we have the four principles of KANU, we have Ford Kenya, we have Wiper, and we have ANC. So that is one of the factors that we should be discussing when talking about the Kenyan politics. Leaders that focus on the next generation and not the next election. And we want to tell our political leaders that we've been patient with them, and the reason why we've chosen to be silent for some time is because their time is coming. Come 2022, we will do our thing, and I'll just remind them that our little patience is more important than excess force. So we will apply our patience in 2022, and then they'll have to leave the offices with their excess force. Yes. And then lastly, I'd want to urge the executive to respect the judiciary. I'd want to urge the parliament to respect the judiciary. And these three organs should work together towards a common goal of uniting Kenyans and making sure that justice is served. Because if one of them falls back, then a Kenyan will suffer. Therefore, it's important that as a nation we forge direction together so that we are able to sustain our agendas and we are able to deliver what we've promised the nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, the very best. Those are the comments from General Alex Kirong of Kibabi University, that we can see the direction the river is taking, but we are not yet sure where the lake is. All that is what we had courtesy of the Seventh Estate, a pure political platform where we speak our minds. We tend to challenge the status quo not because we are right, but because they seems to be wrong. Nashion Mwakazi, this is the Seventh Estate, live from Kibabi University.